So look, when an IEM starts getting, well, to put it bluntly, when an IEM catches the hype train, my natural instinct is to be very skeptical. I can't help it, especially if there's names involved, influencers or whatever. But in this case, the hype train is most definitely justified, because in today's video, I'm looking at the Letshuoer S12 planar magnetic IEM. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. Here is the box for the S12. Now let me tell you a couple of things about it. Planar magnetic driver, as I said, the price is $152 or thereabouts. That is pretty affordable for a planar magnetic IEM. That's in the territory, if I remember correctly, of the Tin Hi-Fi P1 and the P1 Plus. It's more affordable than the Timeless. It's more affordable than the Hook X. But yeah, anyway, we're going to get into it. That's the box. I'm not going to go into that. There is a carrying case inside. There's a fairly good selection of ear tips. What I want to show you first of all, though, is this beautiful cable. I believe it's the same cable that came with the Tape Pro. Now, I did not like the Tape Pro at all. I kind of like the tape, the original tape. That was pretty good, but the Tape Pro was but if I remember correctly, I've got the box here. I just didn't bother to take it down and open it up, but I think this is the same monocrystalline copper, silver plated copper cable, and it is beautiful. I love it. Some people don't like it because it's too thick and too heavy, but I think it's really nice. It doesn't get tangled up, especially for someone like me who just shoves IEMs in my pockets all day, every day. To be able to pull this out of my pocket, it's like whoop, opens up and there's no tangles, and it feels great. It handles well. It's nice and supple, no microphonics. I love this cable. By the way, it's available in two terminations, a 4.4mm balanced and a 3.5mm single-ended. But enough about the cable. Let's look at these IEMs, and yeah, that is a planar IEM. That is slightly bigger than the Tin Hi-Fi P1, which is the smallest planar IEM I've seen to date. But it's definitely a lot smaller than the Timeless, and it's significantly smaller than the Wrapped Go Hook X as well. Very ordinary. The marketing sort of suggests a minimalist industrial design, and yeah, that pretty much sums it up perfectly. It's just straight up aluminium alloy with no embellishments, just the plain matte finish. Man, if you're looking to go low key, this is the way to do it. So that is the shell. It's pretty nice. It's very comfortable. It's even more comfortable than the Timeless, which was already good, but because these are much smaller, works better for me. Smaller than the Wrapped Go Hook X, and I find them just slightly more comfortable than that one as well. But we'll look into those later. But right now, we've got to talk about the sound. Like, the box is good, the accessories are good, the price is nice. And then we get to the sound, and I got to tell you what, man, the sound really surprised me with this one. First of all, balance is the name of the game here, and while the S12 isn't strictly neutral, it delivers a relatively uncolored sound and an accurate tone. Now, planar IEMs are known to have good resolution and speed, and that's just what the S12 delivers. It's a strong performer when it comes to technicalities, but it doesn't sacrifice on musicality either. It's an efficient IEM, and it can be driven straight out of a smartphone or a low powered source like a dongle DAC easily. However, it does scale well with gear, so if you buy one of these or have one of these, I would recommend using a nice DAC or a nice DAP to get the best results. Alright, let's throw up the graph right here, and there you go. Sub bass emphasis, fairly linear transition into the mid bass, so it's got this nice punchy bass, but it's fairly much, it strikes a nice balance with the mid-range and the treble. There's nothing really out of proportion at all. Sounds very cohesive and all together. But the S12's bass has typical planar driver characteristics. It's fast, it's controlled, and it has nice texture as well. So bass notes hit with authority and they've got this nice slam. The bass extension is good with the lows reaching way down deep. You get some nice sub bass rumble, and a natural decay on the bass notes conveys this sense of weight and strength. The S12 bass is what I would call engaging, but it's not overdone. It's got really clean leading edges, excellent definition, and ample punch. It's moderately boosted in quantity, but it's definitely not a bass head IEM. It is, like I said, balanced with the mid-range and the treble. But the bass notes they're kind of rounded enough to sound natural, but the driver is fast enough to keep pace with anything that you throw at it. So throw your thrash metal, death metal, heavy metal, rock music, throw that at this one. The driver will keep up effortlessly. It's nice and quick, but it doesn't sound too thin, or it's got natural transients. It's not too sharp and fast. And we'll talk about that soon regarding some other IEMs, but for the moment, it's a fairly fun bass and it lends body to the overall sound, but without any bleeding into the mid-range. It's the tightness and the speed of the transients that ultimately creates the spaciousness in the mid-range and the open soundstage. Moving on to the mid-range now, and the S12 presents a mostly neutral mid-range. It's bolstered slightly in body by the size of the bass, but you'll notice the clarity immediately. There's also an underlying warmth, and it's that warmth that sort of gives the mids their fullness and their natural feel. Vocals are positioned slightly forward in the mix, like relative to the bass and the treble, but with a neutral stage position. It sounds as though, like, if you imagine that you're at a concert, you're in one of the front rows at the concert, but you're not right up in the very first row. You don't have to sort of crane your neck up to see the action. You're a little bit back, you're close enough, you're close and personal, but you're not uncomfortably close, if you know what I mean. Both male and female vocals sound equally impressive. They're clear and articulate, yet they are rich and they are pretty much natural in tone. Instrument timbre is spot on, neither oversaturated nor dry, and everything just sounds pretty much right. It's kind of in that Goldilocks zone. It's not entirely accurate, but it is a great blend of musicality and crispness. And finally, the treble, and the S12's treble kind of brims with energy and sparkle. It might be a little bit too edgy for treble sensitive people, but for my preference, the treble here is nearly ideal. There are moments where the treble sounds a tad thin, but those moments are few and far between. Like, it's a treble that's vibrant and lively, but it's one of those IEMs, you know, where you don't have to worry too much. If one of your favorite songs comes on and you want to bump up the volume, you don't have to worry that suddenly you're going to get screeching sharpness or ice daggers in your brain. It's pretty safe. The treble is kind of forward in quantity, but the quality of the treble is really good. There's not really any sibilance. It's not really sharp or harsh. As far as detail retrieval goes, it is above average, like it's pretty good. It's not best in class in terms of detail retrieval. However, it doesn't feel lacking in any way, unless you're doing really critical listening, especially for something in this price range. Like, we're talking $152. The treble tuning is an integral element of the overall tone of the earphones, of the sound signature, and I think it strikes just the right balance with the bass and the mid-range. And then in terms of technicalities, the Soundstage is kind of average in size. It's reasonably wide and has moderate forward depth, but it's not really expansive. It doesn't really reach too far outside the headspace, but it sounds natural. What makes the S12's stage special, in my opinion, is the fast transients and the clean air between instruments. Like, you get that nice black background, you've got these transients that are fast and clean, yet they're just full enough to sound natural. Now I'm adding an extra section to the review today, and I don't normally do this because, to be honest, it's quite time consuming, but someone asked me specifically to talk about how the S12 pairs with certain dongles or sources. I'm not going to talk about desktop gear at the moment. I'm just going to talk about these 4, and I chose these 4 because they are some of the ones that I really like, and they all have a 4.4mm termination, which happens to be the termination I have on my S12 cable. So right off the bat, my favorite dongle DAC mix or pairing with the S12 is the KN-RU6. Now that shouldn't come as much of a surprise. It didn't really surprise me too much. I really like the synergy between the RU6 and the S12. With this pairing, the sub bass rumbles really nicely. It's got excellent low end extension, and the treble notes are crisp, but at the same time they're airy and kind of ethereal. It's just a beautiful combination. It sounds absolutely fantastic. My second pick would be the X-Duo Link 2 Balanced. Now this one sounds really nice. It's got dual CS or Cirrus Logic DAC chips in it. I'd say this one was pretty close to the RU6 in performance, just the way it sounds. It doesn't quite have the magic of the RU6, but it comes very, very close, and it's probably like half the price of the RU6. Then there was the Shanling UA5, and I actually expected this one to outperform the X-Duo, but for some reason the UA5, the treble sounded a little bit brighter on this one, which was rather unusual because normally I would consider the UA5 to be kind of a warm sounding DAC, but for whatever reason with the S12 the treble just sounded a little bit brighter, a little bit sharper, and it didn't gel with me quite as well as the Link 2 Balanced here. And then finally I've got the Moondrop Dawn here. I haven't reviewed this one yet. That one will be coming soon, so I won't say too much about it, but the performance with the S12 is really good. It's got a nice spacious sound, excellent instrument separation, really good overall. The only thing I found was that the bass extension didn't seem to be as good as with the other DACs here, but yeah, considering the price of this guy, it's sub $100, and all these are over, some of them are over $200, but yeah, the Dawn performed really well, but it wouldn't be my first choice. And now, before we wrap things up, let's do some quick comparisons. First of all, with the 7Hz Timeless here, and look, the Timeless is, well, when I reviewed it was $219. So we're looking at, oh, what's that? Math is not my strong point. So it's like $50 or $60 more, 60 something I think more than the S12. And what you get for that, in terms of technicalities, well, it's hit and miss. Like, the overall resolution of the Timeless is better, and the detail retrieval is probably a bit better as well. But listening side by side, the S12 just sounds a lot better to me. First of all, well, the main thing is the transients and the attack on percussion instruments specifically, and vocals, but snare drums, the attack on them just sounds a little bit too sharp. It doesn't sound quite natural. There's not enough fullness or body in the sound. And in terms of vocals, there is some sibilances there as well. It's just everything's a little bit sharp. Like when I reviewed the Timeless, I was actually quite pleased with the tonality, and it was only the Soundstage or something that kind of threw me off. But listening side by side, now I hear that the Timeless, yeah, those percussion attacks are too sharp. Vocals border on sibilance, they're a little bit unnatural, they're a little bit too sharp as well. And then you've got that Soundstage, which is just like this big drawn out two-dimensional line. very wide, but almost no depth whatsoever. It just, look, for $60+ more than the S12, no brainer, S12 every time. And then we've got the Wrapped Go Hook X. Now I love this IEM. It's a semi-open shell. I love this modular cable. It's fabric braided. The cable itself is, well, I love the fact that it matches the color of the shells perfectly, but in terms of the actual cable, I prefer this S12 one, although I do really love the modular nature of the Wrapped Go Hook X cable. That is fantastic. But in terms of sound, now this one has a planar magnetic driver plus a piezoelectric driver, and it's that piezo that ultimately leads me to prefer the S12 over the Hook X. Let me tell you why. The Hook X here has a little added bass emphasis, making it a really fun IEM to listen to. Like the other planar magnetic IEMs in this review, it performs exceptionally well when it comes to bass response and transient speed. The mid-range is really lovely. Vocals sound sort of sonorous and natural. They're upfront and they're visceral. Instrument size is just about ideal with the Hook X, and overall it's just simply sounds great. The instrument separation and resolution are fantastic as well, just like most planar IEMs. So I like the Hook X's tuning and tonality. It's a fun IEM with good technical ability. However, just like the Timeless, the Hook X's sound is a little bit unnatural, and that's due to the resonance and that ringing of the piezoelectric driver. It's slightly warmer than the S12 in the bass and mid-range, but it is a tad edgy in the treble. Like, the core treble is fine, but that piezo driver just has this unnatural ring to it, and I find it persistently distracting. It also causes some discomfort for me personally at higher volume. It's just like this, it's hard to explain, man. It's just like this resonant ringing noise inside my head that it's almost inaudible. Like, I feel like it's just the sonic vibrations battering my brain rather than the actual sound itself, but it probably drives my two dogs absolutely crazy. Physically, the Hook X is fantastic. It's really nicely built. It's very comfortable as well. The cable is nice. But you know, the Wrapped Go Hook X, this is a great IEM, but I think the S12 at approximately $88 cheaper makes much more sense. If it weren't for the occasional piezo ringing, it would be a much harder decision for me, or it would be a lot harder for me to choose a winner out of these two. But as it stands, definitely the S12. So I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. That is the Letshuoer S12 planar magnetic IEM. Look, for the price, $152. Believe the hype. In this case, believe the hype. It is an exceptionally good IEM. It's not perfect, but for the price, you're getting a hell of a lot of quality, audio quality. You're getting great accessories as well. The cable, the ear tips, the carrying case. It's all really, the entire bundle just adds up to a very, very good deal. So this one comes highly recommended, and I'm going to wrap it up there. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, Parfam Audiophile Style. Don't forget to check out the links in the description, links to my written review, links to my Patreon. And if you are new to the channel and you want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'll see you later.